So I'd just like to open our second session of Know and Grow. These sessions are brought to us in a collaboration between Tara University's campus and our regional industry education partners. It's a pleasure to have these guest speakers here with us today that are going to talk around emerging industries and how that can shape future careers. Firstly, I would like to do an acknowledgement of country and acknowledge that we are meeting here today on the land of the Biripi people. Of course, with Tara University's campus, we also stretch over the land of the Worimi people. So we pay our respects to the elders of the past, the elders of the present, and the emerging leaders that we see around us. So I'd now like to welcome Evan to introduce our guest speakers and talk a little bit about how this wraps into career options for students. Thanks, Evan.
So this morning we'll have three guest speakers, and we're calling these emerging industries. So in our area, the Mid-Coast LGA, it's actually really surprising how many startup businesses there's been, all the different types of areas that people have chosen to work in. So these are just three examples of businesses or organisations that are doing something really different in our area, and then provide those opportunities for school leavers, or even if you're younger, looking at something in a few years to aspire to. So today we have Hector Lucenti. So he's from Tech Savvy Tradies. So he'll be showing robotics is shaping the future. We have Cole Stieber. So he's talking about circular economies. And then we have Josh Hack. So he's going to be talking about technological innovations of the use of drones to change agricultural industry careers. So first we'll start off with Cole, so from Dundaloo Enterprises. So welcome.
Thank you very much. So what is circular economy? Well, probably 12 months to 18 months ago, it was just a buzzword to me. It didn't really mean anything. But it actually came to Dundaloo Enterprises by chance. So what I'll do, I'll just run through this slide first, quickly, and there's a bit of a video, and then I'll actually talk about it. So waste, it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem for the whole community. So currently, all our food waste goes to the recycling centre on the way to Tanoni, so we used to call it the tip. So it's odour, which is a big problem to anyone that lives nearby, and the other big problem is cost, and the fact that it's not real sustainable, that we waste everything. But for a cost, I don't know if you know, a Mid-Coast Council and every council pays a state government levy to the state government for every tonne that gets wasted, that we dump. And they pay millions. So the least we can put in, the better it is for our ratepayers, or the more money that our local government will actually have to spend. So it's a financial issue, and it's a non-sustainable the way that we keep going. So there's a machine that actually turns waste into compost within 24 hours. I'll come back and I'll talk about it. And that's actually located at Mid-Coast Council. That's actually collecting the soil or the compost out of the machine. That's our gardens at Dundaloo Enterprises. So you can see where the circle's going. That's all produce and food. That's actually selling the food, going back into the community. It also goes back into our kitchen, because we actually do have a commercial kitchen. And I think the food actually here today came from our actual commercial kitchen, where we have our catering business. This just shows something we set up actually with Mid-Coast Council. So we're actually in I call it a collaboration that we started actually about this time last year, September last year was actually not, yeah. We actually started talking about joining together to try and reduce the waste. I don't need to read it, but just so how the circle works. We've actually got money coming to that as well, how we can actually bring financial, because we're trying to make this commercially a viable operation. Now this is actually a promo video of Dundaloo Enterprises, but if you look at this, you actually see the circular economy part coming into it. That's collecting the waste. So you probably saw the collecting the waste, putting in the machine, getting the actual soil back out, and then going back into the garden. So how this started to us was probably 18 months ago, Mid Coast Council received a grant funding for that machine. So it's only, what's a 60 kilo machine, but they didn't have anyone to run it. It's like a lot of these things, and in government organisations now, what do? So they approached us at Dundaloo. So we said, yes, that's a good business opportunity. We are a disability support service, so that's a great opportunity to actually give valued employment to participants. So we came along, and then we decided, what do we do with it now? So we collaborated with Club Taree, and we started collecting their waste. We collected it over 3 months. It was October, November, December, actually 4 months, and January this year. The very first month, we collected 1,035 kilos out of the restaurant. So in 4 months, we collected about 4.5 tonne of food waste. So that got diverted from actually going into the waste recycling machine or into the tip, which would have paid our rates to the state government. So we continued to collect that. All of that within 24 hours gets turned into soil, and that went back into our gardens. And we have our commercial kitchen, so all the produce has been grown and going back into the actual kitchen that then gets made, sold, whatever. So we're creating more employment as well. Now we ran that for 4 months. We collected great data to make it so we can take this onto a bigger project. Unfortunately, it's not commercially viable. We tried to actually get whatever the club was paying for the waste producer to take away to at least give us. I mean, it wouldn't even cover half our costs. So we're not at that point yet. And unfortunately, if there was a legal legislation, which is coming, that clubs must recycle their material or their food waste, we'd be right in there. So for us, this is a long-term venture. Head of Waste, Dave Rees from Mid Coast Council, he guarantees me that will come. That eventually every commercial premises must recycle their food waste. So we've gone into this in a way that we've got great data, we're continually doing it, we are collecting today. And yesterday actually, that came out of right there, that was collected out of the machine yesterday. So we're collecting 100% of all of the food waste from Mid Coast Council, and we continue to do that. We're not collecting from Club Taree anymore, but we're still collecting all of the waste. So that's actually not going, we're saving that from landfill. But that's going back into our gardens. And that's pretty much what the cycle is. So we collected great data, but what we see is in the future, we're already a little step ahead. And I believe it is a big thing for the future because all councils everywhere, they know that they have to do it and we have to reduce landfill waste. We're actually in a big grant with Mid Coast Council so that if they're successful, then we can get on board with them to do this on a bigger scale. And economies of scale, do it for every club and every commercial premises in the local area and bring down the costs. So it's a more viable opposition or more viable proposition. So that's what we're trying to get to. So you can see from here, that came out of the machine. So actually start with just scraps. That's just something I got out of the bin this morning. It goes to the machine, comes back out as soil. And that there, which Tom, our horticulture guy, got out of the gardens yesterday. So that pumpkin, those, ginger, turmeric and all that is all straight out of our gardens yesterday. So there's the circular economy. So I've learned a bit over the last 12 months. That's just one of the projects that we're doing.
Good morning. Thank you. My name's Hector Lucenti. I'm a founder of the Beach Geek. I will take Tech Savvy Traders any day. That's a great name. Thank you for having me today. I put this short presentation, which I started back in 2017, and I was actually thinking yesterday I should trademark this name. So I've called it Techvolution, and it's just about how disruptive technology has been and will be in the years to come. So this is my company. I am a tech guru. I'm a cybersecurity and a futurist enthusiast. I am a dad. I'm a road tripper. I love being on the road and just driving somewhere, not knowing where it takes me. I love to play poker because I love to try to outsmart everyone else. I'm an F1 dead fan and a Texas barbecue lover. So this is me. I can do lunch, dinner, breakfast. Yeah, that is fine, and I can use some of that amazing food as well to put on the barbecue. So. Why tomorrow, right? So when we think of the future, well, why tomorrow? Why is it so important? And for me, thinking of the future is actually what puts a creative mindset. So the more you think ahead, the more your creativity sparks. And that's exactly what we need as a species and as a society just to keep moving forward. It's been like that since thousands of years, right? But if you don't think ahead, then how can you pave the way? And then when you start thinking ahead, then you find yourself solving problems and not just making things for the sake of making them. You're actually solving problems like Cole over here, right? So we think ahead, sustainable, recycled food, and look at him, he's now solving problems, right? But also, why tomorrow? Why is all this important? Well, I believe because you have to leave it better than you found it, right? So if you go somewhere and going to do something, I'm going to execute any project, just try to leave it better. Otherwise, what's the point? If you're just going to go into something and leave it exactly the same, what's your contribution? So think of the contribution, right? And when you start getting in this mindset, then you will find that, work to enrich your mind, money, all of that really just follows. But work for yourself, work for your mind, work to enrich your community, your country, your whole earth, like my 4-year-old calls it. He said, we live in Earth, Australia. That's what he says, right? So this is why, tomorrow is important. This is a picture of the Apollo 11 NASA computer, right? That was in NASA command center. There was probably one of hundreds, right? Today, you probably all have smartphones. So an iPhone is now 32,000 times more powerful than this computer, right? So this is how much we have come forward, right? But these guys back then were thinking of the today, which was there tomorrow, right? So this is where it all gets sparked, right? And then how do you get there, right? How do we get to that tomorrow? So emerging technologies, right? So artificial intelligence, virtual reality, advanced materials. We've heard all the concepts. These are the industries that are going to disrupt, and the technology that is going to disrupt all these industries, right? Genetics, food chain technology. We've seen one here today. Virtual tourism, quantum computing. So these are all. I've chose some of these purposely very advanced topics because this is what's coming. So if you are young minds, you are thinking to go forward, where am I going to be? We'll start thinking this is what's coming. It might not be here just yet, but it might be here in 20 years. So let's just remember, just a bit over a decade ago, there was no Netflix. That did not exist. We had to tune in the TV and wait for the show to come up. If you were lucky, you had an IQ box and you recorded it and watch it later, but there was no Netflix. That concept did not exist, and it's only been a decade, right? 15 years ago, there were no iPhones. We were still in the little screens and, texting 1, 2, 3 for a letter, right? There was not all this auto typing, and today we have ChatGPT. So it's moved pretty quick, right? And it's going to keep moving quick because some of these advances, what it's going to give us is more computing processing power, and that is going to let the technology advance at even a faster rate that we ever seen before, right? So I thought maybe some inspiration for you if you're thinking, you know, okay, that sounds great. What does that look like? Well, you can look at blockchain technology. This is definitely disrupting the world we're in. So any type of jobs from any of this part of the blockchain, you can work on, and you don't have to be a geek or a coder. You know, you can be a process analyst and just simply define process and help enterprises set up blockchain technology, right? You can go into robotics and make amazing things like the robot arm that serves drinks at the cruise ships, right? So these robot arms, they're about $30,000. They're in a couple of cruise ships that go around the world, and the robot can actually serve about 4-6 drinks per minute. And you just tap in what you need, it goes, chooses, mixes, and gives it to you. So lately, this company have said if they could integrate ChatGPT into the machine, then what that means is you can now come and talk to it, and it will just interpret your feelings and your mood, and then it'll decide what to shake and give you, right? A drink that will boost your moods, right? So this is how, and this is not new, right? So this arm, I think it's been around for, you know, a few years now, but ChatGPT is new, and that's the disrupting part, right? So you can see how one thing leads to the other. You put them together and create new things, right? You can go into house building. So the house building of the future, you know, machines like these are already in operation. So as you can see, this is a 3D printing machine, just printing a house, right? Rails on either side, and you can print the whole house, leave the holes, and then these tech-savvy tradies will come in just to do what they need to do and plug and play, right? So the tool belt of this future might become a bag, right, with stuff like I have on the props on my table, right? And so just to point out, there's a company in Germany that does this already, and they can build a house, I think it's a 5-bedroom house, in about 14 days with a printer, right? So the machine works day and night. If it is going to rain, they can actually set up temporary roofing so it can keep working. It only needs 2 people on site. The actual engineer that checks the machine is doing what it needs to do according to plans, and the machine technician in case the machine faults. So that's it. So we've gone from a site full of people to 2 people, 1 machine, 14 days, 1 house. Let's go. Right, so you can go into that too. And of course, all the supporting industries that go up to this. Or the ultimate frontier, right? So everyone talks about colonizing other planets and moving and going there, right? And maybe one day we'll do that, who knows, right? We might not be here, we might, right? But I'm a firm believer that this cannot happen if computer power is not there, right? So at the moment, if we need to send a crew of 6 people to Mars, we need to train them. They need to be medics, technicians, engineers, astrophysics, rocket scientists, right? And then they have to not die when we, launch them, and then they have to make it there, right? When the computer can do all of this stuff to fly the ship and get us there, we just tag along for the ride, use the robotic arm and have a drink. But when we get there, well, this might be the ultimate frontier. So, you might be thinking, well, maybe there's something you can contribute to. So how are we going to get our food if we go colonize Mars or the moon? How are we going to get the electricity? How are we going to use, the technology to scout around, the new land when we can't breathe out of it, right? So what your next job might look like, hopefully you'll, aspire to work in a nice, friendly environment full of greenery and glass and light, right? And this is the stuff that I think you could be looking at, an AI analyst engineer, a renewable energy tech guy, a cybersecurity analyst, VR developer, environmental engineer, elderly care technologies. So, there are technology already there. We keep aging, and you might be the one that integrate this. Urban agriculturists, so these might be people like Cole who said mini, agricultural solutions for communities. 3D house builder, genetic counselor, virtual tool specialist. So, I'll quickly tell you, this is what the tool belt, my tool belt looks like, right? And my props that come in the tool belt. This is what I would need if I was probably one of these stuff, So you can carry a drone, you can carry your virtual headset, your phone, your RF protected card, so hackers don't steal, your card information. GPS tags, hard drives, your headphones, your Bitcoin cold wallet storage, right? For you to keep your cryptocurrency in power, or your 360 camera if you're filming a virtual tour. So these are the kind of stuff that you need to start looking into to go ahead and, conquer the new world. So I hope you've enjoyed today, and thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll take them later.
Okay, thanks everybody for coming along. My name's Josh Hack from Ag Farming Systems. I'm a district agronomist around Taree as a private consultant. Go from sort of up the north coast near Dorrigo all the way down to sort of the Hunter Valley. Started my business about 2 years ago, so early days into my business. Worked for corporates before that, and then also managed farms out west near Gunnedah, etc. as well. So before that, from Tassie, so, it's good we haven't got too many people in the room to do many jokes, but fly away with them if you want to. So I just got the brief to do a 10-minute talk just about drones. Look, I've been using drones pretty much since 2013. I was a pretty early adopter and started using them when I was out west and then moved to the coast. So lots changed, talking about how quickly technology changed. You buy these sorts of things for anywhere between 3 to 10 grand, and within 12 to 18 months, there's nice new flasher ones and better ones and doing different things, and we all want to get them, but you sort of got to try and get one and stick with it for a while to try and get your money back. So drones in agriculture. Look, first of all, I just wanted to give the basic sort of uses that we've used drones for over the last sort of 10 years or so. The first thing we've used them for was just really as a drone, as a camera. Okay, so this is just a simple drone here. They were a lot simpler than that 10 years ago. You had to, pull them out and put wings on them and half build them before you got to use them. All these things now, they just unfold them, press a button, away they go. But we used them a lot for scouting and looking at paddocks and mapping paddocks. So really just a normal camera. Would send it up and have a look across paddocks, okay, and it'll just save us some time in a lot of walking and trying to identify what's going on. So we'd be walking around paddocks and, trying to work out where there are issues, if there's insect issues, if there's some nutrient issues or moisture issues, and then we'll try and identify what those are, and then we want to solve the problems, right? So we're trying to identify what are the issues, okay, and then we can move on to, how do we solve these problems? And drones were really, really good at that at the early days, clicking off just to be able to access that. Then we've moved away from just drones in general, and now the technology in the cameras. So these two drones are pretty much identical in terms of the drone. Okay, that one's about $3 grand, and that one was $8,500. So the only difference, right, is this little knob on the top, which gives us GPS, so it gives us RTK. So at any point in time, we sort of know where that is within a centimetre. Okay, so we can then geo-reference all that information. And the other one that's on the front is we have another normal camera, but we've got another 4 cameras on the top. Now that gives us a lot of different lights, so NDVI, and pretty much sees different colours that we can't see. So the ability for that is it can start to give us, yield maps and all these maps of basically what looks green to us, that there can pick up between red and green. Okay, so then we can sit there and go, right, there's a problem in that part of the paddock. We can go down and have a look at it and see what their issues are. And then we can start to even look, go down the track of soil testing. So we might say, well, we've got a bit of a red problem going on here. So we're going to start separating that part of the paddock, do some different soil testing, start trying to work out what the issues are. So then we can go into the problem-solving space. Okay, where before in the past we would have just soil tested that whole paddock and got an average. Now we're starting to be able to work out where the problem areas are and bring those problem areas up. Okay, so we really want to increase some of these problem areas up to where the higher yields and all those sorts of parts are, so we can start to increase that sort of information. So that's where we sort of started with drones. Here you can see that's just an NDVI map, like I was telling you with this drone. We just set it out, we draw a map around the paddock, takes off, flies it, comes back, downloads the data, and we get a map like this. Okay, and you know, in this instance we've just got wet patches. Okay, so this is actually waterlogging that's caused a lot of this. Okay, so now we can actually start to look at some numbers around how much area is that getting affected. Can we invest in some drainage? Okay, so now we start to go, righto, let's invest in drainage. We know that there's going to be a problem, you know, 1 in 5 years, 1 in 4 years, 1 in 3 years, whatever it is. And then we can start to say, righto, let's try and increase the rest of that paddock, because it's all about trying to get the right return on every acre or hectare that you've got in your system. Where's it moved to now? So that's what we sort of use drones for a lot of the time. The biggest gain in the last 12 months has been the ability for these drones now to lift lots of weight. Okay, so these drones here now can lift 40 to 50 kilos. Okay, so these drones here, we can spread fertilizers, we can spread seed, we can spray. Okay, so now, you know, there's even OH&S benefits, because now we don't have big heavy gear tractors and lots of stuff on sides of the hill worrying about rolling, all that sort of stuff. We can actually get up into all those little hilly bits, gets a lot of those invasive weeds and all that sort of stuff under control. Okay, and utilise these bits of gear. We can actually use this sort of drone, right, to go and map the whole farm or those areas. And this here, with the technology of where it is, picks out all the trees and all the issues. Okay, we download that to this drone. Okay, and when he takes off to spread or spray, it knows where those trees are, goes around them, all that sort of stuff. And there is some technology out there, and I think this is the next step, talking about, you know, we always want to be talking about that next step, where we're going. We could actually start to use this sort of technology, okay, like this, okay, to recognise different plants. So now we can actually sit there and say, right, we can tell the difference in colour between a crop plant and a weed plant, okay, or bush thorn and all those sorts of things. Download that data to the spray drone, and it flies out and knows exactly from a GPS point of view where to go do that, sprays it without hurting any of the crop. Okay, it's a lot more targeted, automatic and automation, and that's where we're going with it. Just around here at Taree, so last 2 years with a lot of the flooding and the wet conditions, okay, lots of paddocks ended up getting their pastures planted with drones. Okay, in the past we used helicopters a lot, but that's sort of switching now to the drone technology, because they are able to lift those heavier weights. Okay, so they're moving ahead. That's one there that's, you know, spraying some paddocks. Again, you can fly it manually, or you can actually set it up on a path and it'll go and fly paddocks automatically. Comes back, all you're doing is filling it up, putting it back in, pressing a button, takes off again, and away it goes. So pretty cool technology, and it's gone a long way in the last. There's a guy that I know who's got a drone business now. He's from up at Noundock, and he's pretty much got a full-time drone business with sort of 6 or 8 blokes, and he's got about 10, 12 drones working full-time, and he's only started that up in the last sort of couple of years. So it's pretty amazing where the technology's going. You look at this sort of drone here, it's going to cost you around sort of 40, 50 grand for the drone. Plus you need some batteries, be another 5 grand each for those, and all that sort of stuff. But you might be looking at 60, 70, 80 grand for a setup. Plus you need to buy a generator to try and, you know, pump it all up and get the energy when you're out in the paddocks, all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, if you go and buy a tractor and a spray rig and all that, you're probably looking at 150,000 anyway. Okay, so, you know, the cost of it isn't prohibitive out there, especially if they can get across the acres and the hectares as well. I'm just going to take a little tack to the left, because technology is really cool stuff, but drones is one thing. We're learning a lot more too around, because I do a lot of farm management stuff and decision making, solving problems, all those sorts of things. And, you know, automation is key. That's what we want to try to get to, because every time we ask a farmer to try and do something, they're always too busy and they don't have the time. And, you know, there's only so much time in a day and we can't keep on asking, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do that. We've got to try and work out automation systems so that we can get that information in front of the farmer so they can make better decisions. So one of the ways of doing that is we have some... It's hard to see, isn't it? Okay, so this is a program which is called Pasture.io. I'm using it as part of a project with Sydney University with 5 farms up here on the mid-coast. Okay, so every farm can subscribe to this sort of thing. They have a live farm map, okay, of what their farm looks like at any time point. They can collect data, so that just as quickly as, this is touchscreen, isn't it? Like that. Might be able to click on a paddock. So you just click on a paddock. I don't use this on the computer at all. I only ever use it in my phone, my pocket. So it's always when you're in a paddock, you've always got that information all at your hands now. So we can select the paddock, we can put information in about whether we're fertilised, whether we sprayed it, start collecting data, all that sort of stuff of what we've done. Okay, so that's really cool. The other thing we've got going on now is this works with satellites. Okay, so this technology that Pasture.io have come up with, okay, you can look at your overlay, and we go NDVI. So you know I was telling you about NDVI with this camera. Okay, well there's satellites in the sky that have all that technology as well. And I don't know if this will work, maybe. There we go. So that's an NDVI of that farm, okay, from satellites. So instantly we're getting a yield. Okay, so if we put that, see all the yellows, probably just been grazed and less feed. As it goes darker blue, we've got more feed in those paddocks. Okay, so instantly we've got a feed wedge. So now we know which paddock's got the most feed, which got the least feed. We know which paddock's being grazed. And the good thing about that now, so these guys have come up with some technology with some GPSs. We put on just 3 cows, so there's 600 cows in that herd. Just 3 of them have got a GPS on a collar. Okay, every time the cows go in that paddock, it talks to this machine and says, righto, that paddock's been grazed. So we don't even need to put it in anymore. Because we found, you know, trying to get farmers to say, oh, I've got to go on the computer, tell it that it's been grazed. It's real difficult. These guys have come up with a way to automate that system so it knows when it's grazed, puts it back down the bottom of the curve, and then when it gets back up here, we know how quick it's growing. So then we now get our growth rates. So we start to forward plan how much feed we got, all that sort of stuff. If we go in here, tracking herds, so you can do it with tractors, whatever you want. You track anything that you want to put in it. And we'll go back to the map. Yep. So that's the cows there. So that's where the cows are. That's the paddock they're in. Okay, and those hot spots is every half an hour it takes a reading and tells you where they've been in that paddock. Okay, so the good thing about that now, we start to track, you know, how many times they've been in that paddock. We can start doing yields off it and all that sort of stuff. So for farmers, the ability to be able to have some of this dashboard stuff with information and data for decision making, like the next stuff's going to be the AI that can then start to use this data with weather data, with predictions and current, you know, what's going to potential happening to say whether, you know, you're going to have potential feed surplus, less, start to tell you that you're overgrazing, undergrazing, so you're making better decisions going forward. So that's just a little look into some tech in ag. Hopefully you enjoyed. Any questions, let me know.
Thank you so much. Wow. Certainly has come a long way since, you know, changing the channels, having to get up off the couch to change the channels. So we do have some time for Q&A. For anyone who would like to ask any questions in the room, and then maybe if people watching online have any questions, they could reach out to Taree Uni Campus, and we can see if we can reach out to these guys as well. So thank you to all of you, and some questions.
Josh, just because we've heard from you most recently, I just wanted to ask, and you might have described it, but the size of those drones that you were showing going out and actually spreading and spraying, are they this size or are they gigantic? Like, how big are they?
Yeah, they're,
size of the table.
no, they're like 2 metres.
Yeah.
2 metres in,
Oh, wow.
in distance. So yeah, from here to that chair there,
Wow.
wingspan.
Cole, you were showing this tray with the soil. How much, like, is that 20 times as much content to get down to that size? Like, how much?
You get about 10%.
You get about 10%.
So 60 kilos, you get 6 kilos of soil or compost.
Right, right. And you were collecting from Mid Coast Council. Are you allowed to say how much waste you're now getting compared to the 4 tonne or whatever you're getting from the club?
We collect weekly.
Yeah.
So we probably get the full content a week.
And
I mean,
that's-
it changes vary, but that's probably an average.
And that's about 60 kilos a
Yes.
week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Can I just carry on from that? So at the Mid Coast Council, do they have just bins in the kitchen that have just food waste that everyone just puts their food waste in?
Yeah,
You guys
they've
come
gone the
and collect
next step to what we do in the community,
Yeah.
which we will one day go to, because we're going to have all these different coloured bins. But they're already preempting that, so in the premises themselves, I don't even know what they are, but I've been there once and they've got a lot of different bins for all different types of food and other sorts of waste.
We've got big pull-out
Amazing.
buckets, and then we've got little benchtop buckets as well for the different kitchen areas around our kitchen area.
Oh, great. And I saw them going into Go Vita. Can you buy your Dundaloo Enterprise vegetables from the shops up
Yes,
here in Taree?
yeah, we've got
Okay.
we've got a few major customers like that. Wingham as well. Yeah, Benton Foods is another one. But
Oh,
we've got a
fantastic.
few.
Excellent.
We
Another
can't
question?
keep supply up to them actually.
Yeah,
They want
wow.
more than we can make.
Amazing. That's great.
Could I just say, for starters, wow, all of you, it's just fantastic, and your mind just keeps going. But I'll start with a question to you, Cole. Not economically viable, is that the cost of running the machine or maintenance of it? Or
Just labour cost.
oh, okay,
Yeah, because we've still got to pay people to pick it up, take it out there, bring it back. In the future, we'd like to own the machines
Yep.
and to be able to run that ourselves. And if it's economies of scales, you might have a van, say for instance, or some sort of collection system, and you can go into a lot of them all in one go, collect from every club, from every commercial premises, then bring it back. So we need to get to, we're probably ahead of the game. But what's great is we are ahead of the game, so when it does become law that these premises must, recycle their waste, hopefully we're already a step because we've learnt so much and we're continuing to doing it.
yeah, the more restaurants around, the better.
Pretty much, yeah, but if you think we've collected, just say, an average 1 tonne a month out of one club, you think about how many clubs there are between here, Old Bar, Wingham, Foster, I reckon you probably average at least 10 tonne per month just out of clubs, let alone all the other commercial premises and restaurants.
Oh, fascinating. Next, can I just say, Hector, fascinating, and I'm just thinking of all that computer power, and we know that that requires a lot of energy. So what's the solution to the energy supply side?
Well, I guess technology
Do we need the mic?
Well, they're talking loud enough.
So-
the camera.
technology keeps moving forward, and we've seen advances in solar industry, in hydraulic industry, and all these amazing things that are coming out. I've recently spoke to someone who is commanding a project for new panels that are meant to work at night without the sun. So that could be a game changer as well. And at the end of the day, it seems like generating energy from renewable sources is probably the way to go. So making sure the regulators, the governments and the legislation start thinking forward and, stop using fossil fuel to generate energy, then we can really say, well, yeah, we need all of these, but as Josh said, I'd rather own 10 drones than 10 tractors.
Yeah, yeah. And can I ask Josh a question too? My mind immediately went away, not so much to agriculture, but thinking in terms of identifying environmental habitats. These are koala feed trees in this area here. Because, I think back to the days when trying to identify that sort of vegetation, you'd be requiring skilled people reading maps, which is a pretty hard job.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the technology with these cameras nowadays, and that's the only difference why this one's really expensive, is just the technology of the camera. Is it can pick up those sorts of things, but it's about the research that's got to go behind it to then recognise that is what it is. So then we can create the algorithms so that it can be automatically done. So yeah, usually a lot of research is done with the drones and lots of stuff, and then we can actually, once we get that data, we can transpose it to things like satellites and stuff, which can do it on a bigger, broader scale. Absolutely.
And you will find that's probably not far, because there's already a platform that uses AI where you can send a photo and the AI matches with the actual
With
plant.
that plant.
Right.
So then the next step is really to get the drone footage straight to the AI, recognize it, upload it to the database, and that creates that automation he's talking about.
And it's already happening. I know way out west where they're using big drones, like they're like plane drones, and they're flying square kilometres. So they're not flying like small 100-acre farms. They're doing square kilometres, and they're looking for, say, box thorns, for example, and they can recognise the box thorn, and then they download that information to a helicopter that has spray on it, and it goes out to those box thorns and automatically sprays.
My nephew's out in the back of St George, and works at a big cattle ranch out there, and they've got a similar thing for their cows, because there's like, you know, he goes, I'm just popping down the back paddock, and he gets in a helicopter.
Yeah.
Whereas I pop down to the back paddock and I get in my, bush ratter.
And I didn't mention that, but farmers, even locally, that contact me, are starting to look at drones just to check heifers and all that sort of stuff. So, especially when we had the floods, like I reckon there was 5 or 6 farmers rang me and went and bought a drone that week because they couldn't access their cattle. So they pick up the drone, they can go down and check, if the heifers are all right. Do I need to get a boat? Do I need to, or are they all on a nice, safe little bit of area, and they're fine for a few days a week. Checking water, all that sort of stuff. So you can go check water troughs, fly down, check that that's all okay. So it saves a lot of time travelling and all that sort of stuff as well.
Amazing. Fascinating.
I've got a question for Josh.
Oh, right.
Well, actually, it's probably not a question, it's probably more of a statement. I can see, I reckon there's going to be a huge future in defence, because if you saw, look, Ukraine, or what's happening over there now with Russia, there's so many drones being used, and it appeared, if we're told what's true, that the Russian ship got sunk was by one of these, because they got no anti-missile to go against this, because it goes under the radar and then it blew the ship up. So I'd say even in defence, especially in Australian defence, because they're going to need a lot of people to be able to drive these, it's going to have a big future.
10 years ago, when I first started using the Phantom fishing, just to, because you could pay like $300 for this automatic release caption thing, but you tie a piece of like a clothes hanger on the bottom, put a hook on it, you tie a hook in your line, put it on, and flies out. As soon as it gets out there, you turn it around, and it falls off the hook. So it's just like simple things like that. But yeah, it goes through to technology, and a lot of the technology comes from somewhere like army or health. Typically the health and defence has all the technology and all that stuff, and then comes over to agriculture or the other sectors.
Gets into domestic
And then our sectors have got to try and come up with the software side, to try and utilise their capabilities.
I have a question for all three of you. If you had like an elevator pitch worth of time to tell people what it is that you really love about your job and what makes you think that this industry is the best industry to be in at this moment, what would you say? And you've only got like 10 seconds.
Yeah, I don't have a job. I just love what I do. So what I do is who I am. So when I went into these, I don't work. I don't have a job. I'm happy to help people, connect them with technology, make them understand, grow, manage it, whatever it is, because this is me. So that's why me and what I do is the best.
Cole?
I don't know pitching just for circular economy, because my job personally, I'm Dundaloo and Dundaloo Enterprises, so I'm all over. I'm in so many different buckets and wear so many different hats. I'm about creating businesses and business opportunities to create employment opportunities for participants, and also create other forms of income other than NDIS for Dundaloo. So, but for a pitch just for, say, circular economy, or let's reduce our waste, let's make the planet more sustainable. That's pretty much it. Be on board with it.
Awesome. Like that?
Yeah, for me, it's about working with farmers and solving problems. So I enjoy the challenge of issues and problem solving and working together in groups and teams to try try and solve problems. And the other one would be, I farm myself, so 200 head of cattle, and I have farming in my spare time, and just love being on the land and enjoying, the environment and animals as well.
And would you all agree that the Mid-Coast LGA is the best one to do what you're doing in?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I've turned it off, sorry. I'm not too excited.
Thank you, guys. I think we have one other question over here. Evan?
So I'll bring it back to potentially who will be watching this recording. So Cole probably led me into this really well. Was this your background initially? So what did you study, if you did any study? Or is this how you pictured you would be working? And for people not knowing what university degree, school electives to choose, would you have any suggestions for them for these emerging industries? So it's an open question to the panel.
I'll tell you a quick story. So I was born in South America, in Venezuela. I only moved to Australia 20 years ago. But when I was out from high school, I did know I wanted to go into tech, but I did not want to code. I did not want to be a software engineer. I still hate coding, so I know enough to know what's going on, but I don't want to do it. Back in that time, the problem I had is the universities available did not have what I wanted to do, which was network engineering. So I'd always had a passion for how the computers talk to each other. So I went into the very early internet, found some manuals, bought some hardware, and hooked up 3 computers, mine and 2 mates, and we started gaming. And it was incredible. And I became the dude that could fix the gaming thing when it didn't work. And that's how I went into network engineering. Then I moved here, and then that's what I pursue. So I'm a network engineer by trade. And then I've just, from there, it's technology is my thing. So I just look at every single part. But, if you have any interest, I think the future will have technology in anything you do. So whether you farm, you create food, you look after elderly people, you go into finance, whatever it is that you do, tech is always going to surround you, so you better know something about it and get that mindset on. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think they say that most of the jobs that the kids will be doing the kids that are currently in school probably haven't even been created yet. So we just don't know what's going to be available.
For me, I'm an engineering background. Most of my life's been building truck bodies, mining equipment, defence equipment, nothing to do with what I'm in now as a service industry. I'm used to working in factories, building things, designing things. Defence was actually one of my biggest customers for 10 years. But now I'm in more of a service industry, and I joined that predominantly because I have a big passion for the disability sector. But with what I have learnt with this thing, with the circular economy thing, I think it has a huge, big future, predominantly because we will be faced that we have to do something about it anyway. We can't just keep throwing our food away and actually wasting it. If we keep doing that, eventually we're going to run out of total food anyway. We've got to turn it back into something what it is that we can use for. But I think it also comes into technology, because here's that machine, turns it into soil in 24 hours. We actually have to wait a while before we can put that in the garden, because we've got to add more carbon to it first, because it's like a hot mix. So getting to that point, I want to, and I've already spoken to try and engage universities how we do that, how we quicken that process up, so we don't just sort of leave it for a month just in the air. So I think from having that scientific engineering type background, and also engineering background to build bigger machines, so we can do this on a much larger scale, because we're at the start of this process, or this wave. So I think large sort of management skills, engineering skills, technology skills, it's all built into the one to be able to make this process quicker, and probably environmental. That's another big thing, because it is an environmental thing that we're trying to fix.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think the waste, not only in clubs and bars, but schools and supermarkets as well is just incredible. So
It'd be
whatever
great
we can do.
it'd be great if we could get those, the big return and earn machines. If you could get a composting version of that,
Yeah.
you pull up, dump your compost, and then 10 days later you can come back and pick up a bag of soil that you get to go and help your kids plant something.
Let's start brainstorming.
Right, yeah.
Let's start.
Go on, all right, I have to
Love
do
that.
Yeah, for me, look, I've always been involved in agriculture. One thing I like to say to students and people that are coming through that journey is to enjoy the journey. And you look at us up here, we're at destinations, and when I first started on the agriculture journey, I was just moving out west in New South Wales and driving big tractors. That's what I wanted to do. Done that for quite a few years, managed cotton farms, all those sorts of things. And it just so happened that I ended up having to move to the coast for family, and it was a completely different change. So the thing about agriculture is it is so diverse, and the jobs you can go through is pretty much anything. If you think about it, it's in agriculture. So I went from cropping and alkaline soils, all that sort of stuff out west, moved to the coast, and now I'm dealing with dairy cows and beef cows and acidic soils. So lots of retraining for me. I had to relearn different soils and all those sorts of things. So it is everything's always a journey. And from a education point of view, I finished high school year 10, went working on farms, so I didn't have a year 11 and 12. Then decided to, after managing a couple of farms, I went back to university to study for agronomist, and that was at Wagga Uni. So that's where I got my degree. And then also TUC, I moved from Tassie to New South Wales just to study for a certificate 4 back then, and that was the only reason I moved to New South Wales, was to do that for 1 year, and I haven't been back to Tassie to live since. So decided to stay over here. But look, it's always a journey, and everything's a stepping stone. It's always good to have dreams and where you want to go and where you want to end up, but just keep in mind that can always flow and change, and use those stepping stones to better for the next thing, so where your destination might end up. So enjoy the journey. Yes, I was done a Bachelor of Agricultural Science and specialised in agronomy. So at Wagga you could specialise in ag business, agronomy, animal science. All that sort of stuff. No, agronomy is all about soil and plants. Yeah, so sorry about that. So yes, agronomist is soils, plants, all that sort of stuff, doing soil testing and plant health and all those sorts of things.
I just want to quickly add to what Josh is saying about the journey. You will find yourself as a young mind eager and keen to want to know more and disrupt, that you will find resistance, especially from older generations, and it's okay, that is fine, but don't stop, disrupt, break through, find new ways. So in the 1800s there were no cars, and Mr. Ford came in and made the first assembly line for constructing cars, and he was told that's not going to work. He was told by his lawyer, horses are here to stay, this is just a novelty, right? And look what happened. So you will find that, and that's part of who we are. But don't stop. Just go for it. Enjoy the ride. Fit your mind, and just live it better than you found it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I think as well, just not narrowing your mind with an industry. Like technology is not just coding. Ag is not just driving a tractor. It's, it can be really broad. So excellent. So thank you so much, Hector, Cole and Josh, for coming today and sharing your insights into your world with us. That was fantastic. Thank you.